Ashley. Welcome to this episode of this podcast.
Hello?
So, have you ever heard of the case of JonBenet Ramsey?
No, I haven't.
Briefly, it is the story of a little girl, a young girl who was found murdered in her own home at the age of 6. But we're going to get more into that later on. Let's start off by introducing the victim. Her JonBenet Patricia Ramsey was born on August 6, 1990, which would have made her 36 this year if she were still alive. And she was born in the city of Atlanta in Georgia in USA. So here's a picture of her.
She's so cute.
She was approximately 6 in that picture. She was the second child of JonBenet Ramsey and Patricia, mostly known as Patsy Ramsey. She also had an older brother, Burke Ramsey. The Ramseys were a prominent and affluent family living in Boulder, Colorado, known for their lavish and luxurious lifestyle. So now let's introduce the family members one by one, starting with the father, JonBenet Ramsey, who was a highly successful businessman and the CEO of Axis Graphics, which was his company, a computer distribution company that earned millions and millions of dollars annually. His success afforded the family a life of luxury, including their 15-room Tudor-style mansion in Boulder. Now for the mother, Patsy Ramsey, who was a former beauty queen crowned Miss West Virginia in 1997. She was highly involved in JonBenet's life, especially in her pageant career. Next, we have her older brother, Burke Ramsey, who was 9 years old at the time of JonBenet's death. He was known for being really reserved, quiet, and shy. Now let's go into JonBenet's personality and her interests. So she was described by her family members and friends as an outgoing, bubbly, and charismatic child who thrived on attention despite being 6 years old at that time. She had a love for performing, which was evident in her success in child beauty pageants. Her friends, her family, her close ones often highlighted her kind, sweet, and playful spirit. So now let's go into her pageant career. She was highly decorated as a child beauty pageant queen, winning several local and national titles such as Little Miss Colorado, America's Royale Miss, and National Tiny Miss Beauty.
Wow.
So these are some of the really known titles that she won. Her pageant participation was a family affair, with her mother heavily involved in her preparation and grooming for her competitions. She often wore a lot of makeup, elaborate costumes, and performed rehearsed routines showcasing her talent beyond her years. So like the pictures I showed you before, these pageant photos, many of which depicted JonBenet in heavy makeup and mature adult-like attire, became really controversial after her death. Critics argued that she was sexualized as a child, given the fact that she was only 6 at her death, and these pictures were taken way before. But others saw these pictures as a harmless hobby that she shared with her mother.
Yeah, I agree.
Given that, yeah. So now let's go into the tragic accident, so the night of her death. JonBenet was last seen alive on the night of December 25th, 1996. So on Christmas, according to the Ramseys, they spent Christmas together at home after attending a family party earlier in the day. So the following morning, on December 26th, JonBenet's mother, Patsy, discovered a handwritten ransom note demanding $118,000 and called 911 out of panic. And a few hours later, JonBenet's body was found and discovered in her basement by her father. So now let's go into the circumstances of her death. So when her body was found, the autopsy showed that she was strangled with a cord and a part of a paintbrush handle. She also suffered from a severe skull fracture that was clearly broken with a heavy object. There was also evidence of asphyxiation and head trauma, which were all confirmed by the autopsy. Now for the ransom note, which is the more suspicious and strange part of the case. There was a 3-page ransom note that was found on the staircase of their house, demanding $118,000 for JonBenet's safe return. However, she would be found just a few moments later dead in her own basement. The note was written on stationery from the Ramseys' home and appeared to be hers.
Yeah.
So the police did find the notebook that the killer used to write the ransom note in the Ramseys' house.
Their own house.
Their own house. So the amount demanded actually also coincidentally matched with John Ramsey, so the father's Christmas bonus.
Yeah, this
that
is
year.
too suspicious.
So,
this is too suspicious.
On Christmas, the dad received the exact same amount that was demanded in the ransom. So is it a coincidence or is it something more? So her body was found in the basement's wine cellar, wrapped in a white blanket.
Oh, so they also had time to like wrap it up.
So they purposefully put her body in the wine cellar of the Ramseys' house. Duct tape was on her mouth, her hands were loosely bound with a cord so that her movements would be limited. That was how her body was discovered. Now for the evidence and clues left on the scene. DNA from an unknown male was found on her underwear and remained unmatched. So this proved that she was raped by the killer, and it also proved that the killer was a male, which is crazy because she was also 6 at that time. So to think that probably a grown man
would want to do something like that.
Something so horrible to a child is insane. A partial boot print was found near her body, which was not linked to any of the other family members' shoes. The basement window was broken, suggesting a possible entry point for an intruder, or it could have been a way for someone else to cover up the murder. This case does have 2 main theories. The first one being the intruder theory, suggesting that someone broke into the Ramsey home and committed the murder. So the evidence supporting this theory are the broken basement windows. Like I said, the window was broken, which suggested that someone could have entered from that broken window. There was also the unidentified male DNA found in JonBenet's underwear because it wasn't matched with any of her family members. And the partial boot print in the basement that did not match any of the family members' shoes. Now, the second theory is the family involvement theory, which suggests that one or more members of the Ramsey family were directly or indirectly involved in JonBenet's death, possibly covering up an accident or a murder. So the part 1 of this theory is that Patsy accidentally or intentionally killed JonBenet during an argument or outburst during one of their practices and staged the scene to look like a kidnapping so she wouldn't be suspected. So the evidence supporting this theory, one is the ransom note that was written with Patsy's notepad. So like I said before, the notepad that was found was actually the mother's. So the second part of this theory is that John Ramsey had an involvement in the case. The theory states that John may have discovered JonBenet's body after the accident and helped to cover it up to protect his wife and his family reputation. So the supporting evidence would be John found JonBenet's body in the basement, so he was the first one who found her, which raises questions about why the police missed it during their initial search. And the second, probably also the family has a really good reputation. They have money, so they could have easily bribed the police. Another evidence would be how the coincidence of him getting $118,000 on Christmas. Is that a coincidence or is that on purpose? Is that a link? The third part of the theory would be that Burke, the brother, had an involvement in the case. Burke, who was then 9 years old, accidentally killed JonBenet during a sibling conflict.
And he didn't want to lose both his children.
And he didn't want his family to lose their reputation. The evidence supporting this theory would one be the bowl of pineapple that was found in the kitchen with Burke's fingerprint. So Burke was eating pineapples. Then pineapple was also found in JonBenet's stomach during the autopsy, suggesting that she ate it shortly before her death. So there's a timeline that we can guess with the autopsy proofs. Burke's behavior during the interviews were also scrutinized. Like I said, he was really quiet. He was a little bit suspicious. So it seemed like he was indifferent.
Or guilty.
Or coached by someone, possibly by his parents. This case has a huge impact in today's society. First of all, JonBenet's murder did get massive media attention, becoming one of the most publicized crimes in American history. This case also brought debate on parenting, media sensationalism, and justice. So first being the pageant photos of JonBenet fueled a frenzy and multiple debates, with tabloids and news outlets portraying her as a symbol of lost innocence, with her having to wear such excessive and mature costumes at the young age of 6. And it also raised awareness about the complexities of child safety, forensic evidence, and the impact of media on unsolved cases. It also raised awareness on sexual assault and rape because, like I said previously,
She was touched.
there was male DNA found in her underwear, which showed that she was probably raped before getting murdered.